Hello, hello everyone. My name is Gary Gomes. I'm a Vedic astrologer. I live in New Bedford, Massachusetts. I've had about 35 years experience in Vedic astrology. And this purpose of this show is to share what is coming up the following week, what it means internationally, and what it means in specific in your lives. I use a system of astrology from India called Jyotisha or Vedic astrology by some or Hindu astrology by others. It's a really old system of astrology, and it's been relatively consistently practiced for quite a while, for thousands of years. And so here I am. If you would like to contact me for a reading or for lessons, you can reach me at 508 525 0001, or you can contact me at garygomesg@gmail.com. That's my letters, my name, the letter G, and at gmail.com, all run together. So, this week I'm not really feeling 100%. It's nothing serious, it's just a cold. So I am probably going to make an attempt to kind of tone it down a little bit, maybe not give quite so much detail as I normally do. I'm not going to skimp on anything, but uh, I'm just warning you, I'm not really in for like an hour and a half presentation today. So let's share the screen and see what's going on planetarily right this minute. Oh, by the way, we have made 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much, everyone. And obviously, we want to keep growing. So please subscribe, like. Please feel free to comment. I do try to answer the questions. Sometimes I don't feel I fail to do so every week, but I do try to answer those. And your feedback would be extraordinarily appreciated if you did answer. So I'm going to cover. Um, going to see if I can get the screens to show up. Yeah, yep, it showed up. And the significant changes. There's one rather large significant change coming this week planetarily, and there has been a significant planetary change which appeared earlier this week. The one that appeared or that occurred earlier this week is actually Venus entering Virgo. So Venus is at least out of its conjunction with Ketu, which can give some unexpected positive news, but usually um, screws up communications. And it can also lead to misunderstandings and arguments. So that particular combination is gone. But Venus also moved into a stabilization sign of Virgo. Now, what that normally means, just in general in a chart, is Venus in Virgo is Venus at a place where it can't express itself, its softer qualities quite as nicely as it normally does. So you'll find yourself getting into more critical discussions, feeling like you can't indulge yourself as much as you'd like to. Saturn is also aspecting Venus. That's an important aspect. Venus and Saturn are friends, so it can actually provide certain structure to how much you're paying or how much you're enjoying yourself. But also at the same time, one of the problems it does give more problems with um, kidneys. It gives more problems with trying to think of the best way to put it. It can also give some problems with financial growth. So even if you have significant financial growth, you won't feel happy with it. Uh, the Sri Lagna is also in the same sign with Venus, which actually helps to boost Venus's potential for attracting financial growth. But at the same time, Venus debilitated can give some relationship problems. It can give the feeling that relationships are either um, you're hemmed in your relationships, or or some people can feel trapped or unhappy with their lives. This will come through. So pretty much, from my experience, the planet which there are two planets which are responsible for happiness. One is from um, so Jupiter is responsible for a sense of well-being or contentment, or this is the way things are, and I'm not incredibly happy, but I feel blessed to be where I am. Uh, Venus is the feeling of being extraordinarily happy. And when I mean that, it means all your physical desires are being met. You feel secure financially. You're not worried about money. You're not worried about paying bills. So if Venus is strong, and it can lead a little bit to acquiring a lot of things. Venus in Virgo can make us a little bit, and especially aspected by Saturn, can impose upon us the idea that there are limited resources in the world, and that especially with the Saturn aspect, which has just it's about to move out of the Western astrology arc within a couple of days, but it can also give. So there's an arc of influence in Western astrology roughly between 3 and 5 degrees. So Venus, so Saturn's at 2 degrees 40 minutes, and Venus is at 4 degrees 30 minutes. So they're around 2 degrees apart. They'll separate more as the week goes on. So you'll feel a little bit more generous, a little bit more willing to give, a little bit less critical of your spending habits, et cetera, going up to when Venus enters Libra in about 3 to 4 weeks' time. So this particular transit isn't horrible. Venus is still a benefic planet, but it can give problems in relationships. It can give, like I said, feelings of being um, suppressed or a little bit unoptimistic, especially about material security. Jupiter is fine. Jupiter is about to change signs this week, so that's the other important change we have coming in. I'll talk about a couple of other planetary combinations which are significant as well. But so Venus is a little bit weak, so that's that planet that feels it makes us feel happy that we're living our life as we want to, that we're able to get whatever we want. That's that's going to be suppressed for at least another 3 weeks. Uh, but Venus in Virgo is also a good time to analyze your spending patterns. It's also a good time to be more critical of your spending patterns and also your entertainment, what you do for entertainment. Um, so I'm going to stop talking about Venus for the time being. This is, so there's what's called a parivartana, or an exchange of signs between Mercury and Venus. So basically, what this means in plain English is Venus is in Mercury's sign and Mercury is in Venus's sign. So that tends to um, diminish the weakness of Venus a little bit, okay? But there will still be fights about money, there'll be arguments or even lies about financial progress. And also in relationships, you have to watch out for this because Mercury and Mars are in the sign connected with relationships. And you can find relationship partners being a little bit dishonest or a little bit aggressive, especially about financial matters. So, and it's also extremely easy for politicians to lie, to misrepresent things, to um, basically um, try to hurt people through manipulation. And you're going to see a lot of that in politics over the next couple of weeks. Jupiter's casting an aspect on that sign. It'll stop casting an aspect within about a, a 2 days or so when Jupiter enters Cancer, and there'll be less ability to lie. But I think one of the fascinating things we're seeing is there's been a lot of exposure of what I would call shady practices or financial misdeeds throughout the world. Uh, so so that's particularly true in the United States, um, but I think it's also important when you go in to buy something or you're going to make a purchase to really read the fine print in purchases, because this is a sign connected with sales. It can give problems with sales. Venus in Virgo can also give, in general, health problems to pets. And so you have to be careful for both those things as well. So this isn't a horrible combination. This is what I would call a lawyer or a politician combination. As I've told you before, um, I don't dislike the media in our country, but I don't trust the media in our country or even around the world very much lately. And that's because of certain combinations that are in the United States chart. So in the U.S. chart, we'll look at that in a few minutes, and I'll look at maybe another couple of charts like England and India. But basically, from this combination, it'll be tough to tell who's lying to you and who's telling the truth. So Jupiter is about to go into Cancer. One thing I have noticed is there have been a lot of significant gains being made by conservative groups around the world. That's in keeping with Jupiter moving towards Cancer. And that trend, I think, will continue throughout 2026. So this is not, so I have to be clear, this is not a personal preference. This is something that happens when Jupiter enters Cancer, or when Jupiter, so Cancer is a sign of the homeland or traditional values. Jupiter gets exalted in that sign. So you'll see a lot of cultures getting more and more upset if their traditional culture is being infringed upon. And there are some conditions, especially with the Mars-Mercury conjunction and with Jupiter being involved in that, which can make people more hostile, more prone to riots, more prone to um, demonstrations. I live in Massachusetts, and I can recall from last week I saw a line going through Massachusetts, close to where I am, and there were several um, police, not police, but several disturbances in which the police were attacked in Boston, which is about 15 miles north of where I am. So essentially, this is one of the things you'll see when you have this Mars-Mercury conjunction and also Jupiter aspecting it. So you'll see, let's say, permission being given for those things to happen. With Jupiter moving into Cancer, it's less likely that permission will be given, and it's more likely you'll see um, other acts taking place to counter it. So I don't see us anywhere near a civil war in the United States, but this is over the next few months and especially into next summertime, this will be a potentially violent time for the United States. Okay? It will be not necessarily sporadic, but it will be smaller scale than next year. Next year, I expect to see a rather enlarged. Uh, so, and it gives me no joy to say this, but I'm just going by certain planetary patterns I'm seeing. We have a Moon Jupiter conjunction right now. That's a good thing. So it starts the week off with an optimistic bent. Moon and Jupiter are very, very good together. They encourage communication. They encourage writing. It's very, very good. The moon over the week will be moving into Cancer, which is a sign that'll be by tomorrow, late tomorrow. And then by the end of the week into Leo, which should give some monetary opportunities for monetary gains, but also opportunities for theft. And then in conjunction with Venus and the Sun, so we'll have a new moon starting around the end of the week. So that'll give us a chance to start over again. But just be very careful. Rahu's in Aquarius. New inventions, again, are shown from this combination. It's at 23 degrees, 41 minutes. The Mercury-Mars conjunction, I think, is the most difficult part of this chart because, like I said, it affects trade. It gives people the impression that they're not being paid attention to or they're not being treated fairly. So, and that's on both sides of the political spectrum. So you'll see a lot of um, protests, but I, I'm thinking once Saturn goes direct, which will be around the end of November, you'll see much more pushback from more conservative elements of society. Not necessarily political violence, but uh, just more of a demand for cessation of these activities. And also, this Jupiter entry into Cancer will be a prelude to next summer times. Uh, um, what I would call dogmatic. Um, I don't want to say the word dogmatic adherence to principles. Okay, so I was thinking of another word, but it's really not appropriate. But for those of you who recall the late 60s, early 70s, this pattern was very strongly in place around that time. And there were a great many people protesting. There was a lot of violence. I was just watching something about, uh, I think it was the Weather Underground. I may have mentioned this last week in the United States, and we may have similar activities or similar attempts at activities taking place next year. So hopefully not, fingers crossed, it won't happen, but that's quite possible. And this won't be confined to the United States. So the late 60s disruptions and early 70s disruptions weren't confined to the United States. There's we have a kind of a tunnel vision about this country, and we assume that that if it happens, if it happens here, it's relevant. If it does, but it doesn't happen anywhere else. That wasn't true in the late 60s, early 70s. You had the Bader Meinhof gang in Germany. You had um, increased activity on the part of white racists in the early 70s. So again, this is not new. This is part of a repeating pattern we're seeing. So again, buckle up just a little bit. But in the immediate future, we do have some relief when Venus enters Libra. that's usually a more peaceful placement. People are more logical, more in more in line with things. And as I said before, earlier on, I think I said last year I would be surprised if the government shutdown was resolved early. I'm tending to view it lasting really until um, maybe, I'm hoping not, this is not the case, but the earliest sign I can see it taking over or being relieved is around 25 days away. And the latest I can see it being resolved would be around the end of November. But hopefully I'm wrong and they'll get their act together and they'll agree on things. But I think this Jupiter heading to Cancer is a sign that people are digging in. Okay, so let's go over to the U.S. chart just for a minute. So I really want to look at two charts. I had three charts today. I mean that I view any country as being less important than another, but these are just so. All right, so Venus is in the same sign with Saturn right now. It's going to take, so this lockdown or this, not lockdown, but this government shutdown, Venus is going to have to move past Saturn, I think, to get the lockdown. I haven't analyzed earlier lockdowns. This is just on the spot analysis. The other thing is, the United States is in, let me get this down here. So since October 8th, we've been in a Mars subperiod. Um, so that's, so people want to fight. This is where all the aggression is coming from. This is where all the protests are coming from. And after October 16th, we enter a Rahu subperiod. Yeah, so you may see some fanatics come out of the woodwork around that time. November 3rd, you enter a Saturn subperiod, and maybe by November 26th, uh, you'll see a little bit of a slowdown in the United States, a little bit of a, and also, if I were to pick a time when the United States would uh, move against Venezuela or any other country, I would pick this period between November 3rd and March 27th, because that's Saturn in the 10th house in the U.S. chart. Those tend to be times the United States focuses on things like invasions or things like that. There's also a Mars Saturn aspect in the U.S. chart. Saturn and Mars aspect each other in this chart. So there's always this desire to get things done quickly, but we end up moving slowly. The judicial activity is mainly because of, so a lot of the judicial activity we're seeing right now is, so this is also in terms of people being indicted, but also in terms of every single measure that the president wants to put through being scrutinized legally and going through several iterations in courts is mainly because of that K2 in the ninth house. Okay. And again, we are seeing some twists or some unexpected twists in campaigns. The campaign in Virginia and New Jersey has taken the campaigns in Virginia and New Jersey have taken some unexpected turns. There have been other unexpected turns taken across the country, not just in favor of the Republicans, but also in favor of the Democrats. But like I said, with Jupiter moving to Cancer, It's a little, it favors the Democrats, the Republicans just a little bit more. The other thing is we have Rahu passing over the moon will make the United States a little bit more panicky, but also more technologically competitive. And if we have, so this will be an interesting year up ahead for the United States. So this Saturn period, don't expect a lot of progress to be made. People will dig in. And after March 27th, that's when I'm seeing a lot of the disruption, such as what happened in the late 60s, early 70s happening. Okay, it won't last that incredibly long, but uh, it, it'll happen. The other thing is, um, so let's move on to, and people hoping for a change in leader, that's possible, but really not for earliest next year. I would say around August of 2026, but even that's not certain from the charts I've looked at for that. So this doesn't mean deposition or deposing a leader. It usually means some kind of um, violence or so you will see more assassination attempts. I'm like 75% sure. But it doesn't necessarily mean the country will be there'll be a change in leadership and the president will be um, impeached and all this other stuff. That's um, but again, if I'm honest, given the planetary Mahadishas, well, it's not necessarily a bad time for Trump. Okay, given the Rahu Venus period in 2027, K2 is in the second house. So again, I'm not necessarily seeing. I'm seeing some violent tendencies, but I'm not necessarily seeing him being thrown out of office, or else if is an attempt to impeach again, it won't get very far. Let's see now. Hold on a second. So let's go to India quickly. Now, I haven't kept up with India all that much recently. All right. So, yeah, so some disruption in India between September 1st and October 23rd. There have been some rebellions, some problems in India internally. Uh, October 23rd, it looks like there'll be competing ideologies between now and March, the sunset period, um, which will come around March 14th to April 27th. You possibly could see a change in leadership, um, but I'll look at that as the date gets closer because I'm not 100% convinced that the parties will change in India. Um, this K2 period, though, is very unstable between now and October 23rd. But it looks like the Indian economy will do better between October 23rd and March 14th. And March 14th to April 27th, some strong possibility of change in leadership. Moon comes in around April 27th to July 11th, and that looks relatively good for India. The moon is in its own sign, even though it's a new moon, and Mars, though, is a little bit difficult for India because this could indicate possibly a war or some violent kind of activity in the activity hitting the country. So over the next year or so, India will go through some significant changes. But I'm tending to think Prime Minister Modi might might not serve another term, but again, I haven't looked at his chart carefully enough, so I hesitate to say that. And let me look at the UK. And the reason I'm looking at the UK is mainly because, let me see if I have it in here, is mainly because hearing a lot uh, about all right, so what's going on here? What the heck is going on? Okay, so all right, so let me do something. Okay, hold on a second. United Kingdom, Kingdom. Great Britain. Okay, sorry, folks. Let me look at the European Union. I did have these charts in here earlier, so that's okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to look at those charts this week. Look at the we'll look at the astrocartography map, not at the individual charts. Although it is weird because I did pull up these charts earlier. One more try. Okay, I did manage to find the UK chart. Let me just pull it up quickly. Um, and then I'll get it right to everyone's week. All right, the UK has been undergoing some significant changes over the past um, years, and that's mainly because of the Rahu Mahadasha it finds itself in. Okay, so if you look between 2012 and now, although really um, a lot of the changes in the UK happened in the 7 years preceding that, we had a Mars Mahadasha in Aries, which is not bad, but it's in the eighth house, so that's a house of um, chronic problems, and so So the UK has had a history of colonization. It's also had a history of monarchy. It also, one, two, three, four. It doesn't have a Mars Saturn aspect in its chart, but it does have a Mars Jupiter aspect in its chart. And this is the chart taken for 1801 when the current union took place. But one of the most significant things about this chart is that K2 is placed in the first house, and K2 has been transiting over Saturn for the past 6 months or so. That will cause disruptions or some kind of major outbreaks or major political dissatisfaction. The 10th house has Jupiter in it. And again, that Jupiter is heading towards Jupiter in Cancer, which is in place in the birth chart. England is a very traditional society overall, at least from this chart. It loves its traditions. Venus aspects Jupiter. And also, one, two, three, four, K2 is in the first house. So it can give some disruptions or some unexpected turns in its leadership. If I were to explain this, the civil unrest, which some people are calling close to civil war in England or in the UK, I would really bank it on this Rahu by transit. Rahu transited over the seventh house and over the sixth house. It's transiting over the sixth house right now. So that can mean a desire for change in uh, in the country, and that desire for change will not really mitigate or not really go away until around 2030. So it's interesting that the United States and the UK seem to do everything, at least I've noticed it, like maybe uh, at roughly the same times. Sometimes the UK will be ahead of the United States. Sometimes the United States will be ahead of the UK. But our political um, shifts tend to happen almost in parallel. And if we look at this chart, it's pretty clear to see why. But again, violent, I would say a lot of dissatisfaction, not necessarily continued violence, but a lot of dissatisfaction over the next couple of years. And just a lot of disruption. And keep something in mind. This isn't necessarily connected with any, I would say, with any racism, or any or any um, xenophobia necessarily. Uh, I know that every society is capable of that, but this is really about resources because the 12th house of expenses is being tapped pretty heavily. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Is it being blamed on people from foreign countries? Yeah, it is. It is, but is the government really doing anything to mitigate or help its own citizens? With Venus in debilitation, the perception is that it's not. Okay, so I have nothing against any candidate or any political office holder in England. I'm just essentially giving an astrological analysis of what are the factors behind what's going on right now. So, so that strangeness, the strangeness of a very rapidly growing um, group of people from other countries um, hitting a rather um, not traditional, but a rather uh, formal society. And with that Rahu-Saturn combination, it happened relatively quickly. So, uh, so this is what seems to be happening over there. Okay. So we're back to the birth chart, or to the actual chart I first pulled up, and we'll go through the 12 signs. Sorry I took so long on that first part. And so we have Aries. Aries has Mars and Mercury in the seventh house, so it's going to have to be careful for its business partnerships and also its relationship life. So sometimes people will be lying to it about relationships or about business dealings. Second house Lord is in the sixth. There can be some problems with financial growth or financial expansion. Moon and Jupiter are the signs trying to handle it relatively in a relatively civilized fashion. Um, but uh, fifth house has some obstacles connected with children for this particular sign. Now, this would be April 15th to May 15th. I didn't say that earlier. Sun and Venus are in the sixth house. You already spoken about that in terms of financial issues, finances being threatened. Um, maybe by the government, which is, again, that's what we're seeing right now, right? Mars and Mercury are in the seventh house, aspecting the first. Let's see, no, eighth house Lord is Mars. So again, some deviousness, especially in business partnerships. Unless it's a person you've known a long time, I wouldn't encourage people to get involved in new business partnerships. Okay? Let's see, ninth house Lord is Jupiter. Jupiter's placed in the third. So this indicates leadership through diplomacy. And Rahu and Saturn are placed in the 11th and 12th houses. So this can give some financial gains, but you also have to watch out for friends siphoning off your financial wealth. For Taurus, this is May 15th to June 15th. We have Venus as Lord of the first house in the fifth house. It's in a debilitated sign, but that's still a good placement for it. So it can give some financial benefits to children, some financial benefits to family, some expansion of wealth. But again, some fighting or arguments around house. And also you have to watch out for car expenses with this particular placement right here. Mars is with Mercury in the sixth house. You can have some arguments with people at work, or some people at work may be lying to you. Uh, and 10th house has Rahu in it, so there's some dissatisfaction with work and some dissatisfaction with gains because of Saturn in the 11th house. Dissatisfaction in the ninth house or the 10th house usually indicates dissatisfaction with work. Okay. 11th house indicates slowness in gains. For Gemini goes from June 15th, excuse me, to July 15th. We have a Moon Jupiter conjunction. That's a relatively good position for this particular rising sign, so it can give good business partnerships and also good relationship options. But short-term love affairs are not that great for the sign. Longer-term relationships are better. And Cancer is in the second house, which can give the sign some additional options of financial growth. And you should see some additional money coming in. K2 will make Gemini relatively fearless. Sun and Venus in the fourth house. That'll give an increase in financial growth, but again, not feeling like you have enough resources to pay the bills. Mars and Mercury in the fifth house, danger that either a child or a romantic interest may be lying to you. So long-term relationships, if you're in a current long-term relationship, that doesn't affect that. But short-term, like romantic flings, are to be avoided this month. Rahu's in the ninth house, dissatisfaction with supervisor, although the supervisor can be giving you increased responsibility. I might feel like it's too much. Saturn is in the 10th house. Career life will seem hard or very difficult to master this month. But it is a good month for expansion career-wise. For, let's see now, for Cancer, Cancer goes from July 15th through August 15th. The Moon and Jupiter are in the 12th house. That's usually a very good placement for savings, and also it'll give you some financial growth, some good luck at work. K2 is in the second house, so you have to watch out for people for problems with understanding or comprehending, maybe even some forgetfulness for this sign is possible. Sun and Venus are in the third house. That's okay for going after what you want financially, but you'll be urged to be very careful. Mars and Mercury are in the fourth house, so this can give some fights or arguments, and it's especially not a good time to start a long-term relationship. For Rahu's in the eighth house can indicate some people are conspiring against you or plotting against you. Again, I really don't think this is such a big issue. Most people have some people plotting against them at one point or another in their lives. This is usually caused by jealousy or by ambition. So it's part of life. Um, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be um, poisoned or hurt or anything like that. It's just a condition of life. So just buck up a little bit on that. It won't harm you. Saturn's in the ninth house. Bosses will be difficult to work with, difficult to please. And finally, we have no planets in the 11th house. And we've already spoken about the planets in the 12th house. So Leo has, this is August 15th to September 15th. Leo has K2 in the first house. K2 is actually a rather auspicious placement for Leo. It can give unexpected financial gains, especially from charitable organizations. Sun and Venus are in the second house. A little bit of a delay in getting those gifts. Mars and Mercury are in the third house. So some courage or ambition for this sign, but also it can indicate a willingness to lie to get what you want. Uh, Rahu's in the seventh house can give innovative or creative relationship partners. This isn't necessarily a bad placement. Rahu is in its own sign in this chart as well. Saturn's in the eighth house. This can indicate um, people who are used to doing things the old-fashioned way or the way they've done them for the past 30 to 60 years, not willing to change. Jupiter sits in the 11th house in this chart along with the moon. Overall, this is not a bad week for gains for this particular sign. For Virgo, this is from September 15th through October 15th. We have the Sun and Venus in the first house. Now, a lot of people who are born with this combination tend to feel a little bit, they'll tend to have difficult luck in relationships. And that doesn't have to be the case. So, but this is one of the months where you'll actually feel this most strongly. Okay, so um, there'll be a lot of feelings of why did I pick this relationship partner? I've had such a bad time with that person. This will be particularly strong. But also, The Sri Lagna sits in the first house, so it's good for some financial gains. And we have Mercury in the second house along with Mars, so that can indicate, again, some good financial gains through effort. Um, Rahu sits in the sixth house. You have to watch out for illnesses for the sign. Saturn is in the seventh house. Relationship partners will seem to be constrictive or not willing to compromise with you. Moon and Jupiter are in the 10th house. We've already spoken about this. I know we haven't spoken about this for this sign. Um, okay, so Moon and Jupiter are together. This gives good writing opportunities and also good educational opportunities, but also good potential for job growth and and possible gains next month. Sorry about that. Libra. Libra has a peculiar combination in that this is October 15th through November 15th. Excuse me. Let me get this back on. Oh boy. Okay, it's back on again. So this is actually a kind of a wealth producing combination for Libra rising or for Libra sun or for Libra moon, but it will tend to make it, the sign will seem sharper, more astute, but not as happy with itself, if that makes sense. So essentially, the Mars Mercury conjunction is fine. For this particular sign, it's not that much of an issue. The sign can be tempted to misrepresent itself if it goes in that particular direction. Libra's no more noble a sign than any other sign is. But Venus being a little bit afflicted here and the sun being afflicted here, there can be penalties from the government if you're tempted to lie or you're tempted to um, not be totally forthcoming with people. The second house lord is in the first. We've already spoken about that. That's what's called Adani Yoga. The ninth house lord in the first also does that, but there are also expenses for this sign this month. So again, it draws money in, but it also flows it out. Rahu is in the fifth house. There's a lot of interest in unusual entertainment or avant-garde or new things happening in the world with Rahu in the fifth. So children will seem a little bit um, unusual or off-putting if you have children. They'll seem a little bit rebellious. But I think basically Rahu in the fifth is not that bad a combination for Libra rising. It's only if it interacts with other planets that it's a difficult combination. So that's in your birth chart, your other planets in your birth chart. Saturn is in the sixth. Saturn likes work. It does relatively well in the sixth house, but again, it will seem to give a lot of health issues where you thought you were doing pretty well. And the Saturn aspect in Venus and the Sun does tend to make the sign a little bit more sickly than normal. Moon and Jupiter are in the 10th house, good for career, I'm sorry, are in the ninth house, good for educational growth, good for luck. Almost anything you ask for, you'll probably get. K2's in the 11th house, some difficulty with friends or some excessive criticism from friends, okay? So, or it may be acceptable criticism, but for this sign, K2 in the 11th, for this rising sign, K2 in the 11th, it indicates some difficulties or miscommunications with friends over the next year or so. Let's see now. Scorpio. Scorpio has its Lord in the 12th house over here, along with Mercury. And Mars is a good planet for Scorpio rising. Mercury is not. So, but it should give financial gains and financial losses to the sign, similar to Libra, but not identical. And Let's see now. Rahu sits in the fourth house. This can indicate some disruption at home. Saturn's in the fifth house. Some difficulty or need for additional discipline for children or for work life. And seventh house Lord is Venus. Venus is in the 11th house. So good financial gains to spouse or relationship partner. Moon and Jupiter are in the eighth house. Some unexpected financial gains. Uh, Probably not too long, but before the middle of the week. Now, this doesn't mean you're going to win the lottery, although I'm pulling for you, but financial gains are going to be pretty modest with this combination. K2 is in the 10th house, so indicates some dissatisfaction with career or some feeling of wanting to give up career. And Sun and Venus are in the 11th house, so good potential for gains. Sagittarius, so Scorpio is November 15th to December 15th. Sagittarius is December 15th through January 15th. And Sagittarius has Jupiter in the 7th house, about to go to the 8th. So that should bring in some financial gains for this sign. Excuse me. Rahu's in the 3rd house, a lot of ambition for this sign. Saturn's in the 4th. Not really the best placement, but it can bring additional status or increased status to the sign. Sun and Venus aspect that Saturn, so again, career life should be better, but not really happy. Okay, so it means you'll get more career opportunities, but they'll seem like a lot of work, basically. Moon and Jupiter in the 7th house, we've already discussed that. And Mars and Mercury are in the 11th house. So good gains. Friends may be a little bit dishonest, but basically good gains for this sign, good financial gains. For Capricorn, our friend Capricorn, between January 15th and February 15th, we have um, Saturn is the Lord of Capricorn, is in the 3rd house. So there's a lot of ambition connected with this sign. I'm going to move up just a little bit. And Rahu's in the 2nd house. So there's still a good deal of greed, but a little bit of uncertainty connected with the sign. Jupiter's in the 5th house along with the moon. This isn't a bad placement. I'm sorry, Capricorn. Jupiter's in the 6th house with the moon. My apologies, folks. So this can give um, not really bad luck, but you'll have some problems with motherly types and also with advisors or people who are trying to tell you how to do the right thing. So some legal issues can pop up. K2 is in the 8th house. Again, not bad. This gives the sign a lot of interest in metaphysics and spirituality. Sun and Venus are in the 9th house. This is actually pretty good for Capricorn because um, while the sun rules the 8th house, there will be some financial gains and improved career life through the interaction of Venus, Mars, and Mercury in this chart. Okay, so I think you'll see career life improve. I think you'll see knowledge improve, but it won't be easy. Okay. Now for Aquarius, Aquarius has that magnificent Rahu in the 1st house. This is February 15th to March 15th. Um, Roughly, or March, yeah, February 15th, 16th to March 14th, 15th. Um, Aquarius has Rahu in the 1st house. Rahu is um, in one of the signs connected with psychic intuition, okay, or one of the nakshatras. So your feelings or perceptions about people will be spot on for this sign. Saturn is in the 2nd house. Um, Saturn's not badly placed. The yogi point is with Saturn, though. So essentially, the harder you work, the more you'll make for this particular sign. Jupiter and Moon are in the fifth house, so this gives good luck to children, good financial gains to children, and children will seem to be very well behaved, at least for the beginning of the week. Seventh house has K2 in it. Relationship partners will seem a little difficult to get along with, and the Sun and Venus in the eighth house. A lot of interest in investments, metaphysics, spirituality, occult subjects, and but not a lot of benefit from those, not for a few weeks. And finally, Mars and Mercury are in the tenth house, are in the ninth house, excuse me, and you'll see some increased contact, but also having to deal with people who are trying to give you advice who may be misrepresenting themselves. Finally, we have Pisces. Saturn is in the first house, aspecting Sun and Venus. So this can apparently give some relationship opportunities, but the sign will be a little bit too um, leery about getting involved in a relationship. I think that's a good way to feel right now. And also, you may have relationship partners who steal from you or who misrepresent their intentions. So it's probably not a good month for this sign to get involved in a relationship. Um, Moon and Jupiter are in the fourth house. That's actually a good placement. It gives good educational activity, good job opportunities. K2 is in the sixth house. So again, the sign has to be careful about illnesses, infections, any kinds of bites. And we've already spoken about Mars and Mercury being in uh, the eighth house. So watch out for underhanded dealings from people who are close to you. And finally, Rahu's in the 12th. So again, think before you make that expensive purchase. That's going to hold true for a few months, if I'm quite honest with you. Um, Carefully consider what you need versus what you just want. Okay? I'm not telling you not to buy things. I'm telling you just to think it through for a few weeks. Okay, so that's it for the signs for this week. Now let's look at the time and space, the astro map, and then we'll be done, as we are every week. Also, if there's something you'd like to see me cover, please don't hesitate to ask, and I'll see what I'll do my best to accommodate you. Now, one of the things I didn't mention about Venus is, especially when Venus is afflicted, it causes a lot of flooding. So we can expect some. So there was a tsunami off down in, where was it? It was in South America or Africa. I can't remember where. But there was an earthquake, and I think it was in Africa. So there's a Venus line going up through Africa right here. So we might expect a lot of flooding or a lot of aggressive rainfall in Hawaii, um, maybe even affecting the Aleutian Islands. The sun is moving over um, Western Canada. Alberta and Saskatchewan are the two provinces which are really thinking seriously about separating from Canada. And so that doesn't mean they're going to join the United States. That's um, for some people that's on the table in Canada. For most people in Canada, I think they're trying to figure it out. So just from the news I've seen lately, and so we have a moon line running through. Um, oh, interesting thing I meant to mention was they found the fellow or they're accused. They found the accused individual who allegedly started the fire um, the fires in California. And apparently um, it was an individual. It wasn't, they were, what they're saying now is the fires were deliberately set. So one of the reasons I'm bringing that up is because we have the moon line coming over California. I'm sorry, we have a moon line coming over Western California and a Mercury line coming down here. So we're hearing a lot of news about California lately. Um, we're hearing a lot more about the politics out there. And also we have this moon line uh, going up through Portland and into Idaho and into uh, Saskatchewan and Alberta. And we have this Mercury-Mars line running through Arizona and California. So there'll be a lot of what I would call attempts to cover up things in this part of the world over the next few weeks. There'll be a lot of misrepresentation about what they found. So this will be interesting to watch. Um, there's a Jupiter line running over, which um, makes it more difficult for people to hide things. And that's running up again through central Canada. This line over here, there's a Rahu line running over the east coast of the United States. So I'm expecting we should see more demonstrations in Boston and on the East Coast in general. It isn't necessarily confined to that part of the country, but this is more like a more likely area for it to hit. Also in Haiti, there can be some government scandals coming out. Venezuela, as well as some panic, and down to Peru and through Ecuador. The other lines over here are Venus and Saturn lines, so this indicates some flooding potential and maybe some ecological problems. Let me just go over here. The moon is passing over Brazil and close to Buenos Aires, and there are changes. Well, actually, it's close to Uruguay, excuse me. Buenos Aires is more down here, if I recall correctly. And I think what you're going to see is changes in government in Brazil, Uruguay, and even in Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo, Brazil. There's a Jupiter line running through um, the tip of Brazil. So I think it's going to be an interesting season for Brazil over the next few months. I'll look at Brazil. I'll look at some of the South American countries over the next few weeks. I think that'll be interesting to look at. We have a Mars-Mercury line running through the middle of the ocean. It's really not significantly affecting anything except for possibly Greenland. So there may be some false rumors coming out of Greenland. Um, and also, I think not sure that's the Canary Islands. I think it is over here. And could be Cabo Verde or Cape Verde. Azores are a little bit involved, but not really strongly. They're not really that close to that line. Um, in England, now England and Iceland actually changes to the government, or at least the mood has changed a lot, and we'll start to see that coming up again. Also in France and Belgium, and also in Italy. Italy is having a referendum on whether or not to leave the EU. There's a Rahu line passing right through Italy and right through and close to Germany and close to Poland. There is a Saturn line going right through Eastern Europe, along with the Venus line, so this can indicate potential flooding in these regions like Egypt and Greece and Bulgaria and up north through Finland. The other thing is we have some disruptions in governments in places like Algeria and Libya and uh, you know, Mozambique and South Africa, maybe. Um, yeah, the South African government isn't doing all that spectacularly well. They're not collapsing, but they aren't doing that well. And that moon line is going through all the way through Africa and touching Madagascar. So, uh, and again, I was reading about something about Ethiopia is contemplating war with Eritrea. So that's right. That's close to this region. So again, a lot of planets can activate change. It isn't just the typical ones like Mars. And especially since the Lord of the Moon is in Mercury, which is in conjunction with Mars, that can give an excuse to wage war. There's a Jupiter line running through uh, Norway, Sweden, um, Northern Europe, Denmark, and no, it's not quite Denmark. I apologize. It's Baltic states. And oh, I'm sorry, the North Sea states. My apologies. And also through uh, Israel. So there is a peace accord that's going to be signed, or a ceasefire, not a peace accord, a ceasefire, and it's going to be signed. So Jupiter can take some credit for that in the chart. And Saudi Arabia has helped, and they also said Qatar and several other countries around this region help things. There's a sun line going right through Saudi Arabia, Ukraine. This could indicate a change in Ukrainian leadership, although that seems kind of far-fetched to me. Um, but we'll see what happens. That's been obstinate. Putin hasn't taken the opportunities to wind down things, and but again, the media that we get in the United States is well, the Ukrainians have this fantastic victory, and then if you look at something else, the Russians have increased the bombing to unprecedentedly high levels. So so again, every pretty much I'd encourage people to doubt. Um, and again, I'm not on either side in this conflict, but to doubt what you hear um, about that war effort, because it's basically meant for you to root for one side or the other. I'm not defending Russia. Russia invaded Ukraine. Okay, so just to be clear. Okay, all right. I was hopeful it would be over by now, but unfortunately, that isn't the case. There is a Mars-Mercury conjunction going through uh, Pakistan and Afghanistan, close to Iran, but not touching, and close to India. So India is getting more the um, not violent side, but the more aggrieved side over here. And over here, Iran is getting more of what I would call bad information. There is a Rahu line going through. Um, Again, Myanmar is in horrible shape, from what I understand. Uh, Vietnam is a relatively stable economy, but Cambodia, it looks like it's hitting some difficulties. And Indonesia is also hitting some difficulties on here, some scandals in Indonesia, from what I understand. And also in China as well. So there's growing dissatisfaction in China, but China's a huge economy, and so it doesn't mean they're in imminent danger. Let's see now, but they will be in trouble, I think, within a couple of years. Let's see now. Venus and Saturn are both moving through China. They're also affecting Russia, Borneo, and down through Indonesia and in Western Australia. Um, so the economy in Australia is not doing phenomenally well, from what I understand. And so there are changes in government in this region of the country, maybe also in the Philippines, maybe also in South Korea. And there already has been a change in government in Japan. And this is Guyana down here, or Guinea, I'm sorry, not Guinea, not Guyana, Guinea. Um, and let's, yeah, so this is Guyana over here, and this is over here. Okay, so sorry, folks. And so there can be some change in leadership in Australia, not necessarily nationally, but locally. And again, there's a lot of misrepresentation going on, especially in this part of Australia, political misrepresentation going on. Um, Again, I'm not passing judgment, I'm just reading the chart. And finally, what line is this? We have, is that like, what line is that? Yeah, it's a moon line going near New Zealand. So again, New Zealand's government is shifting, or is trying to shift to respond to people, but most of the governments in Europe and Australia and even Canada are trying to react to public displeasure with what's going on. But I think for most folks in those regions, it's not coming fast enough or strong enough for them. So it'll be interesting to see how this um, addresses itself over the next few months. I know the United States has tried to make some changes, and those changes have been fought um, aggressively over the past several months. So I'm not saying those changes are right, or that I'm even um, changes, but the overwhelming sense I'm getting from looking at the world is there's a lot of discontent with governments, and also from charts, there's a lot of discontent with governments not really representing people, and that's causing a huge reaction internationally. Okay, so how this works its way out, you'll see some what I would call more conservative shifts over the next few months. That's almost a given. Uh, so so and things won't start to liberalize again, really for about another year and a half at least. Okay, so that's what I see this week. Thank you very, very much for watching. I love all of you. Sorry, if my energy seems a bit lower tonight, uh, but I want to get the broadcast out to you anyway. And peace be with you. And I love you all. Okay. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye now. and thanks for everything.